Hello everyone! Happy Monday! Thank you so much for joining me here. I can see some lovely, amazing, familiar faces here. I can see Tunk, I can see Georgia, Stuart, team. I'll be missing you so much. Yes, of course. Let's get this party started in Illustrator. I can see Sean, I can see Alexandra. I'm just gonna scroll up because I want to make sure that I say hi to everyone here. Steve, Steven, Sean, John, so many amazing people here. I'm familiar with many of you and I'm very thankful to be able to hang out here with you. I know that many of you were asking for more time with me in Illustrator while I was running the Daily Creative Challenge and our Adobe Angels, and made sure that that happened. So I'm very, very happy to be here. Just want to wait to see more faces showing up. I can see Andreas, I can see Malu, I can see Laura, Part. Nice to see you here. Thank you so much for joining me. So as you probably already read in the description below, we're going to be talking about illustration. We're going to be working both in Illustrator and Photoshop. Actually, we are going to start from Photoshop and then move in Illustrator. I'm going to be here hanging out with you until 5 p.m. UK, which is, I believe, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So, of course, good morning for those of you in the States and good afternoon for those of you in the UK like me. I'm in the UK, Manchester, but of course, Europe, and I guess good evening for the other side of the world. And of course, let me know where you are from. Malu, nice to be here. Thank you so much. So I'm just gonna jump in the schedule real quick. I'm just getting excited to see all of you hanging out here with me. But let me show you the amazing schedule that is today at Adobe Live. As you know, Adobe Live is a wonderful place full of creativity. There are so many professionals hanging out here with you, sharing their workflow, teaching you tips and techniques in amazing apps. Today is an illustration-filled day, so make sure to stick around. After me, we're gonna have Jesus Ramirez. I think I know that guy, and he's gonna run the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, sharing with you some amazing tips in Photoshop, followed by drawing and painting with Anna Shen. She's absolutely amazing. I'll be definitely there checking the stream out in the chat. I can see Sean from Germany. Nice to learn a little bit more about you, because of course I see you always in the chat, but I love to see and learn more about all of you. And Mustafa is from Switzerland, Chris Allen from Scotland, Georgian from Birmingham. Nice to see you, everyone. So as I said, after drawing and painting, we're gonna have the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with Andrew, some more amazing fun in Illustrator, followed by Alexis Bustos with the Adobe XD workflow and pro tips, and then more Adobe XD with our Pinsky with the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge, third challenge of the day, and Doodle Therapy with Alice Lee. What a wonderful day. And I'm going to be pretty much starting the day and chilling with you and making some drawing in Illustrator, but also I'm going to be in the chat afterwards because that sounds like an amazing day. Now, don't worry if you don't catch it, probably just tune in. You haven't time to go through the schedule that is underneath me. There is like an Adobe Live schedule carousel that you'll be able to scroll, but of course I'm going to jump back in the schedule in the middle of our session just to give you an heads up of what's coming after me, and make sure you stay tuned here on Adobe Live. And of course, when we're going to close our session, I'm going to make sure that you remember what's coming after me. But I think it's time to get started and introduce you to today's topic. I'm going to jump real quick here into my screen and you're going to have a flash preview of today's work. So here it is. We're gonna start to build an illustration based on shapes, lines, dots, and we're gonna explore some of the most basic tools, but also we're gonna dive a little bit into how to use them in a more complex way. And of course, a ton of shortcuts. If you hang out with me before, you know that's what I love. I can see Guilherme from Portugal, Parta, Naved from India, Doram from Israel, Alexandra from Austria, Michelle, Tunk, and also on my side here, I have another screen where I can see the YouTube chat getting very busy. So I want to say hi to all of you that are watching it from YouTube. But if you want to make sure that I read your question and I interact with you during this live, you have to jump on behance.net/live. I'm actually gonna show it real quick. Probably it's gonna be my face there running, but here it is. So behance.net/live, and that's where you can find the stream and the chat. So this is the chat that I actually read, but I'm going to close this, otherwise it's just going to be confusing. It's going to be a meta Kladi. Right, as soon as I closed this file, we already opened my Pinterest. As you can see, it is a very new. I started it like literally a few days ago, but I thought that I really felt the need to start fresh. My style is changing and evolving as well, and I really want to make a more selective inspiration. So today we're going to be talking about graphic novels. That should have been a little bit more full year. Here it is. So if you want to go ahead and follow me on Pinterest, or simply check out my Pinterest board, because you're gonna see the inspiration from today. But also, before we get started and we jump again into Illustrator, hi Michelle, nice to see you. I saw you before in the chat during the Adobe Live UK. I don't know if I already say hi before, but we got Freddie from Colombia. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. I wanted to make sure that you are able to follow along with me. So I created some resources. As you know, I like to share with you. And also let me know in the chat if you usually work along or you just watch the stream and do something else. I do both sometimes, especially if it's Photoshop and I like to learn new techniques. Usually when Susie's on or we have Paul Trani, I grab my computer and I try to follow along, especially for the challenges. But sometimes I'm just head on in other project, and it's just nice to hear another creative getting some work done. But as I said, to follow along with me, if that's what you wish to do, make sure to head on iamkladi.com/resources, and you'll see there is a drawing with lines and shape that will have a get started files. The file contains some photos, and let me see, there should be a little bit more in there. Yeah, so you have a Kladi's memories folder with some photos, and an Instapost layout, an Insta story layout, which are Photoshop file. Now I'm going to explain you real quick why. If you head to my Instagram, or I can simply show you here, this is the sort of illustration that we're gonna create, and this actually sparked from one of the daily creative challenge that I was doing here with you, and it was challenge number 7, where we were creating a landscape and drawing. Hopefully we'll be able to see it here. Otherwise, you just can go back on our illustration. I might actually be able to show you here. behance.net/challenge/illustrator. That's an amazing landing page full of information, and Andrew is going to be running, as we see it in the schedule, the daily creative challenge today, so make sure to stay tuned. It's amazing, it's a lot of fun. You can see all his video replay here. But if you scroll down for the week of the 27th of April to the 8th of May, that's when I was running the daily creative challenge. And if you scroll to custom landscape and click on get started, you have more files to have fun. Hi Christine, nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. And Gabriela from Bulgaria, Reda from Algeria, Ella from Nepal, Amar. And again, if you have worked with me before, you already know. If you don't, better let you know, I make up a lot of words. So already I apologize for destroying your names and your countries and your cities. But as you probably know, I'm an Italian designer based in the UK. English is my second language, so we definitely have fun. And besides being creative, we create new words as well. But as I said, in the custom landscape, you can access more files. And one of them is our PDF, just this one here. So we're going to follow along through this minimalistic outline and line landscape to really nail down the basics of illustration in Illustrator with shapes and lines. But also there is a little trick. So the idea is to bring one of your photos. Of course, I shared mine from the starter files, but you're more than welcome to use yours in order to get a little bit more creative. So it's nice to look at other people's work, but it's also very important to have your own references. And as much as I love to have these beautiful references, I always like to use my own photography to bring a little bit more on myself. And besides creating this illustration, tomorrow, maybe today we're gonna start, but the reason why you do have those Photoshop files is because we are gonna be creating some quick and easy animation. And if you head here on the Illustrator story, we should be able to see during the story how to animate our illustration. So if you scroll down, you're gonna head to challenge number 7 or any of those really. The whole point is to learn how to animate in Photoshop our illustration. So we're gonna talk about that as well. The whole idea is to create some memories, your memories, or my memories if you want to use my photo, and develop it into an illustration and then bring them to life with some animation. But let's get started. So in order to get started, I'm gonna open Illustrator and press Command N to open a new document. And because I'm posting a lot of these memories usually on my Instagram, I'm gonna do this vectorized drawing also for Instagram. Therefore, the size for an Instagram post are 1080 pixel, of course. Oops. Of course, make sure that you click on the width, not on the name. We're gonna name it in a second. So 1080 pixels by 1080. And for the name, I'm gonna call it vector. Oops. Memory. And then I'm not gonna worry about much of these because it's already set up for 72 dpi RGB. That's what we want. But if you're starting with a new file, it's important to know that you set your intent in web, and that's how you get those settings. Of course, I've used it before and that's why it was already there. But if you have created some design for print, as you can see, the color mode will change from RGB to CMYK, and the raster effects, the definition of your image dot per inch is going to be 300 to make sure that when you're going to print your images are nice and sharp. So if by all means you want to create this as your postcard and you want to print it, or perhaps you just want to create a black and white artwork and then you want to color it in, so you want to print it off, you have to set your intent to print. I'm going to work for digital. So if you want to follow along with me, and especially because we're going to transform it into an animation, so definitely it's going to go into our Instagram profile. I'm going to click on web to bring back those options here. So again, make sure that we have a 1080 by 1080, which is the size of an Instagram post. And I'm going to click on create to start with a brand new artboard here. Now, as you can see, my workspace is a little bit messy because I have been working. So as you probably worked in Illustrator before, you're gonna end up with all these panels moving around, but very easy, as we've seen before, in order to bring it back. And actually, I'm just gonna show you from the top how to set up your workspace, because I can see some new faces. Michelle, you're following me on Pinterest. That's cool. You're probably gonna be the second person. I think that my studio is the only other follower. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, and thank you so much for joining me here. Also, if you are in the chat, feel free to ask me questions in Illustrator and in Photoshop. It's very nice to use this space here to have as many questions as possible. Of course, I'm going to be here with you tomorrow as well at the same time, but I really want to be here to be able to share to clear as many Illustrator doubts besides sharing tips. I can see also Robert from Staffordshire, non-sunny, neither here in Manchester, although we've been pretty lucky. I don't know about there, let me know, Robert, but here in Manchester was pretty nice and sunny in the past 2 weeks. Hi Andrew from Watford, so many people from the UK. Woohoo! Nice to see you here. Right, so in order to get started, you hopefully have downloaded my file already. If not, I'm gonna give you a few moments while we set up our workspace. So as you can see, my workspace, which is this little drop down menu at the top, you should say perhaps essentials. And that's the standard workspace here with our panels. If you want to create your own, like I did, the first thing that you have to do is to make sure that you select the panel that you want. So for example, I don't really need transparency, so I can bring it out and close it, but I perhaps use transform. And again, if you do need some panels and you don't see them and you hear me mentioning panels that you want to work with, all you have to do is to go under window and scroll down to find the panels that I mentioned or that you're looking for. So in this case, for example, I use a lot transform, and we're going to use it today. So I'm just going to bring it here and include it into our block panel. Of course, I do have only one column because I'm working on my laptop. When I work on my desktop, you have the flexibility to perhaps build a 2 columns workspace. Again, total up to you, depends what you want to do. The most important point is that once you're done figuring out which are the right panel for you, what you have to do is to go under here, this little drop down pointing arrow. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see it here where it says essential, and click there and go into new workspace. This will allow you to name this new workspace that you created, and it's going to save the position and the panels that you have displayed, so exactly as it is when you go ahead and name it. And I'm going to name this test just because it's an example. So apparently I've done already another example, so I'm just going to call it text 2, and I'm going to press OK. And as you can see, now we have our test 2. So if during my drawing I start to get messy like I was before, let's see, I put my swatches here and I just delete the appearance panel and I delete my layers, and I just want to make sure that I bring everything up clear, or my art director or my client are working in, and I just want to make sure that everything looks nice and neat. All I have to do is to go back to our working space panel here and go and click on reset test, or of course reset any working space that you're working with, and boom, it's magic. Illustrator brings it back nice and clean. I can see Danila from Sardinia. Ciao. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to see more Italian folks joining in. I need to start to do some a promotion on Instagram in Italian, but thank you so much for joining me here, Danila. And I can see Jürgen, Dorina, Andrew, Georgia. Follow me too, so I'll check at the end of the stream. I'll probably have 3 followers now. But thank you so much. I hope you find it inspiring. And if you are following my Pinterest, go ahead and check on the graphic novels board, because that's where you get a little bit more of inspiration. Hi, Robert. And can you do the same in Photoshop CC 2020? Let me jump back because I need to go ahead and check. I'm just gonna open one of those files here. Let me just open these resources. I know that I should know that by heart, but I'm gonna check it here. So no, we do not have these. Oh yes, we do. Here it is. Sorry, it's just is a different. It looks a little bit different. So I'm here to try to catch up with your question live. So we have Christy Hepworth asking if what I just explained about the workspace is something that we can do in Photoshop 2020. The answer is yes. As you can see here, there is a slightly different workspace panel, but it says choose a workspace, and we can create our workspace as we like. New workspace and then reset. So exactly, it works the same as an Illustrator. Very cool question, Christy. Thank you so much. I needed to go ahead and double check, but I'm gonna go back and use my Kladi, and I'm gonna make sure that it's reset. And also look how cool, when I brought it back, it actually brought it back to the last time I used it. Oh, Paulina is asking how is Frida. So Paulina is my lovely cat sitter when I do travel to America or anywhere else in the world. She comes to my house and take care of my little Frida. She's doing well. Little Frida is sleeping in the house. I'm in my studio at the moment, but thank you so much for joining me. And she's such a lovely cat sitter. If you are in Manchester, if you need a cat sitter, go ahead. She's, besides being a very good designer, she's also an amazing, sweet cat sitter. So Sean, thank you so much. You already replied to the question, but hopefully now you have downloaded the image. If you just joined, I'm just going to repeat it real quick. iamkladi.com/resources. Get the starter file to get started. We cleared our working space, so we are ready to go. Now, in order to get started, I'm gonna go ahead and open the folder with my memories. There are simply some screenshots from my Instagram. I've named them for location. So there is a lovely picture from Chicago. Usually when I look to my picture in order to pick the right one, I usually try to find something with perspective, and depending on the time that I have. So for example, this one is a picture that I love. I have a wonderful memories in Chicago, but it's a little bit complex. So I thought that perhaps today we start with something a little bit more simple, of course, because of the time constraint, because we know that times run too fast here when we're having fun. I can see Mona, Dustin, thank you so much for being here. This is a picture I took in my hometown. Again, we have perspective, we have nice shadow, we have nice contrast. So I try to look at some bold contrast. Feel free to use them. Of course, those are my personal pictures. And I would love if you can please tag me if you're gonna use them and share them. Or otherwise, again, we have some more. I'm gonna start with this one here called Otranto. And again, we learned how to import in Illustrator already, but for those of you who are learning right now for the first time, is Shift Command P will open the place window in order to place our photos. And I'm gonna go ahead and search it from my folder, and as you can see, I'm gonna start with this one called Otranto, and I'm gonna click on link, so it will be automatically linked, and I'm gonna press, and I'm gonna just kind of fit it onto my artboard. Now, to make sure that we shrink it proportionally, I'm gonna hold Shift and put it on my canvas here. And by holding Shift, I'm gonna drag it there to make sure that I have it right where I want it. Then I'm gonna go ahead and click on my rectangle tool and click once into my artboard to trigger the rectangle window, where we are gonna just simply put the same size of our artboard, which was 1080 by 1080, because we're working on an Instagram post size. And I'm gonna press OK. Then I'm gonna go ahead and find my align panel. If we don't have it, remember window, align, and I'm gonna click to align to, and what I want is align to my artboard, and I'm gonna make sure that I align it in vertically and horizontally and vertically to my artboard. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want to get distracted by all of these other items for my Instagram. I just want to make sure that I see only the image that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to go ahead and then select both by clicking and dragging over my rectangle shape and the file that I've imported, and by pressing Command 7 will create a mask. So as I said, we're going to be using some easy tools, but also I'm going to squeeze in some nice tips. I can see a question here from Edza saying, when sending a business card to clients over web, will it be best to send it as a PDF in CMYK or RGB? So Edza, this is a good question. Depends what you're doing there. So if you are sending it for proofreading, or is the proof before print, I always like to save everything ready for print. So in this case will be a CMYK file, and the reason why I do that is because I also want to make sure that I explain to my client that the color that they're gonna see on screen are the color that we selected, but they're not necessarily the color that are gonna be printed. And the reason why I set my file to CMYK 300 dpi is so they can print it. Ideally, I will print them and send it, mail them, or share during a meeting the actual printed version, or I will invite them to print it, and that's why I set it ready to print, because otherwise the color range will change, and the thing that you don't want is for a client to be upset. So make sure that you tell them that screen colors and print colors are different. Set it up for print so they can print it, or you can print it yourself. Now, if you're working with a black and white files, or if you're working with a very big files, then save it for a PDF interactive, just so it's a smaller size. But make sure that you explain and you teach your client the difference between the color. Otherwise, they're gonna have surprises. I hope that answered your question, Edsa. So we are ready with our background. And I'm gonna go ahead into my layers and name my layers original photo. And I'm gonna start to click on our little plus here to create some more layer. Steve, you're very welcome for the masking tip. There is another way where you can mask. You know that I love shortcuts, but otherwise you can add with your object selected, you can add into object and clip in mask and make all releases. So in this case, you know, with release, we will release it. And again, Command 7 to create a new one. But once I've created my first layer, I'm gonna go ahead into my properties and click here where it says opacity. And I'm gonna bring the opacity here a little bit lower. So when we start to build our landscape, we don't get confused. And I'm gonna go back into my layer and click on this little white space next to my eyes to lock our layer. So we're not gonna move this anywhere. It's there, it's fixed. And I'm gonna go ahead and start naming this other layer simply by double clicking on the layer. And the next one is gonna be our background. So I'm gonna split the image, and I do that with pretty much every image that I translate into vector in different areas. So the back area is gonna be, of course, the background. In this case, we have the sky and the sea. And then I'm gonna move in the midground. And guess what's coming next? Of course, our foreground. And then I usually gonna add some more. Perhaps one more is gonna be our work in progress. Oops, I'm gonna click on delete because I had one too many. I call it whip, work in progress. So that's another layer where I'm just gonna get messy, but then make sure that I can hide it anytime. Now, before we get started, I'm gonna jump straight away into our Photoshop. I'm gonna press Command W to close these files, add back into our photo, and I'm gonna click and drag the photo that we selected to use in Photoshop in order to start to build our asset for our illustration. So once we're done here, I'm gonna go into our libraries, go ahead and click on this down pointing arrow and click on create new library, and I'm gonna name it vector art, and I'm gonna click on create, and I'm gonna click on this little plus here where it says add content, and what I'm looking for is create from image. This is basically Capture. I don't know if you used Capture before, but it is a mobile app that allows us to collect so many professional assets in a snap. Literally, by taking a picture, you'll be able to collect vector, color palette, create font. It's an amazing app. If you haven't checked it before, make sure to go ahead and download it. Oops, I'm not sure what happened here, so I'm just gonna click and go ahead and create from image. Let's see what happened. I have to unlock my layer. Otherwise, I'm just gonna restart my Photoshop here. I'm gonna go ahead and quit it for now. I'm not sure what happened. It usually works pretty fast, and I'm gonna go back and open it. I haven't closed it in a long time. Eds, I'm glad that the tip was useful for you. So just gonna go ahead, oops, and try to open these files and see why that wasn't working. Here it is. So yeah, probably I just needed to restart my Photoshop. I've been working very extensively with it. So it's a good idea sometimes to relaunch the app, especially when you work with them. So as I was saying, this is a service integration of Capture within Photoshop. Michelle says that she loves it. Yes, it's very, very fun. But look what you can do straight within your desktop. You don't even have to jump between mobile and desktop anymore. We can go under color themes, and we can magically select our color themes here. So I'm gonna start to select the color themes by clicking on different colors here. Perhaps I definitely need some green. And the reason why I do that is because I like to work with constraint. Well, at the same time, those are some colors that we're gonna start to work with. My personal suggestion is never to get too emotional with color, because I'll teach you hopefully tomorrow or today that we're gonna revolutionize this color palette completely doing our design. But it's nice to have a solid start, and you can create more of those. So as you can see, by clicking on save to CC libraries, I already created this first color combination. And something else that I do sometimes is just to go ahead and select all the darker colors. And I'm gonna show you why in a second. So perhaps I'm gonna go ahead and select the darker green, the darker yellow, and again, probably another brown. So those are all the darker shades of our photo, and I'm gonna click and save, and it's created another library. And I'm gonna do the same with all the lighter colors. So I'm gonna use the white, the lighter blue, this light turquoise, and the lighter green as well. Let's see if we find it here. As you can see, it's very, very awesome. It shows a preview so we can really dive in. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on save to CC library. So we have enough. You can go ahead and save as many as you want, and you can click and drag here and perhaps explore even more color combination, completely up to you. And you can also build gradients. It's an absolutely amazing app. But for now, we're happy with our color palette. And because we are working with the amazing Creative Cloud environment, guess what happened when we jump back in Illustrator? Well, our assets are gonna be there. So here they are, already uploaded. If we go into our vector art, here it is. Those are exactly the same color palette that we used before. And we're gonna go ahead and go into our layers, and usually you can put it under whip, or I'm particularly OCD and obsessed, so I like to keep my color palette in a separate folder. So I'm gonna click on palette. I'm gonna go ahead and create an artboard here next to my photo, and I'm gonna select our rectangle tool, make some rectangles here, click and drag to create a copy by holding Option, and I'm gonna click on Command Y to look at our outline to make sure that we did it correctly, and then press Command D. After you make a copy, we can click on the rectangle. Oops, let's make another copy by holding Option, and then Command D to create more. I think that there were 5 the color that we selected, and then we can go into our align, and we just align them so we are working with nice and neat shapes. Now the reason why I was working with in outline mode is because they were transparent. Good morning, Elevation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm gonna press Command Y, and I'm gonna start to select them, go to my libraries, and boom, we can apply one color. And then simply as clicking onto our libraries, we can automatically apply those colors. Now you can do this again, and then Command D to repeat. I just create some more. I just like to have options here because when I'm going to start a drawing, I like to experiment with color fairly soon. So again, I'm just going to try to keep the same kind of shade together, so it just gives me an idea of where I'm going with the color palette. In this case, perhaps we have just a darker blue, and we have the yellow. This is completely up to you. This is the way that I work. Of course, feel free for you to do and work in the way that you prefer. And once you're done, I'm just gonna use this one to then create another combination by mixing those colors. Perhaps I should zoom in a little more. I just noticed on my screen that it looked a little bit shrinked in the screen. Now, Veronica is asking, can you get automatically the opposite colors? Well, you can do that if you go on color.adobe.com, but also let's see if we can access color here. So here you can get the first color. Oops, moving my Illustrator. You can get the compound, contrast. So this is complementary if that's what you were asking in terms of automatic. So Illustrator, by choosing one of the colors that you get, can automatically create different color palette that you can explore into your color guides. I hope that satisfies your questions, but I'm gonna go on and move with this because we really have to start to get our shapes. So the first thing that I will do is make sure that I go into my work in progress layer and start by selecting our rectangle tool. I'm gonna go ahead and click and drag in order to create our first rectangle. And then I'm gonna make sure that we go into our properties and we set our stroke. I usually use between 2 or 3, that's totally up to you. thank you so much, team. Team is showing color.adobe.com, where you can find some amazing palettes here. I'm just gonna go ahead, we're gonna jump and talk about color when we are gonna move and create more different palettes. Now it's time to get our artwork done. So thank you so much, team, for sharing that. We're gonna explore it later on. Elevation is glad that Adobe streaming live. Yes, absolutely. It's a great way to learn how to use the tools and to explore it. And of course, this is my workflow, and this is what I'm sharing with you is the way that I work. Not necessarily the best, as you can see sometimes. Actually, I almost forgot to save. That's exactly what I was saying. I sometimes don't save, use the app for a length of time, and my computer, the app just are exhausted after days and days. So let's go ahead and save these files. And by the way, you in the chat, all of you, I'm getting this as your reminder for me. Kladi, save your file. I'm so bad at it. So I'm gonna go into my desktop, vector memory. That's perfect. I'm gonna click save. And I'm gonna allow my Illustrator not to work on these 2 minutes saving. Illustrator is fantastic. It does save every 2 minutes, but it's good that you save your file in order to work a little bit faster and make sure you don't crash your machine. Hi, F. Smith, I guess. Hi from Texas. Nice to see you here. And hi, Steve. So let's go ahead and work with our stroke. Something that, again, I do, and this is completely up to me because up to you, because it's my personal choice, is to use always a round join corner, and the same for the cap. So I like to keep my curves nice and round. So I'm gonna go ahead and select this for my first shape. So when I keep going and selecting my rectangle tool, this remain as my selection. Now I'm gonna zoom in to go ahead and check exactly what I was talking about. So as you can see, my corner are rounded. If you want to have your corner sharp, all you have to do is to go back into the stroke and make sure that you choose the meter join for your corner. Now let's make sure that I use the curve one for me. And here it is. So we're really starting from the very basics here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and create this other little rectangle. And as you can see, there is no shame in using the photo. This is exactly how you start to build your style and to create your shape. So as you can see, I start from the very basic, and I start from the perhaps the easiest part. And again, it's nice to start from the easiest part, because that's where we start to build and explore the tools. So hi Hicham, thank you so much for joining us. Nice to chill with you here with everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you will enjoy learning how to draw in Illustrator. But let's move on to something else. So first we started from our basic shapes. Perhaps something else that is very easy to do with our rectangle tool is our sky. And then I'm gonna go ahead, press V, click on option and drag in order to create the sea. And I'm gonna start to give it some color here. As you can see, into our palette, into our little swatches here on the left of our toolbar, we have the top selected. So I'm gonna go ahead and change the color, making sure that our shape is selected. Oops. Of course, we need our eyedropper tool. What am I even doing here? So with our eyedropper tool, it's gonna change the color. But unfortunately, what happens here is that we lost the stroke. So how do we make sure that we retain the stroke, but we use the little color palette? Well, that's where our swatch come into place. So what I usually do, just for a peace of mind here, is to go and click on our menu and click on select on unused in order to select all the colors that I'm not using for this illustration. And I'm gonna click on delete swatches, and I'm gonna click on yes. And then I'm gonna go ahead and click and drag over our little swatches that we created, and click on this new folder to create a new color group, which I'm gonna call vector art. And I'm gonna make sure that selected artwork is ticked, and we're gonna click OK. And as you can see, we have our color here. So let's go back into our rectangle tool and press I to trigger the eyedropper tool. in order to lift the color, and I'm gonna go back and take the style of our rectangle, which does have a stroke. So we can now go into our swatches, and again, if you cannot find your swatches panel, is under window, so window, swatches, and select the blue that we like to see for the sea, perhaps this greenish blue. And again, V to go into our selection tool, our black arrow, and let's select perhaps a lighter blue. Again, those are very the first trial that we're doing for the color that we can keep go ahead and change it. So we're just reading the question, so I got a little confused. So John Sanderson is asking what you're trying to achieve. So we are transforming our photo. Let's jump back into the layers here. We are transforming our memory into a little graphic, so illustration based on a real image. And here it is. This is the final. And also Josh, we're gonna also create a little animation. So we are starting to learn how to use shapes and line from the very basics to create an illustration. Now I'm gonna go ahead and select these two rectangle, click Command C and then delete, and then we're gonna go into our background and press Command F to paste in place. And as you can see, we already have these other shapes here, which I'm gonna select, that are into our work in progress. Press Command C or Command X to cut, and then we're gonna paste it into our foreground with Command F again. So we already started to build a little bit of a structure into our layers that will help you to build our structure. Hi Ale, nice to see you. Oh, I guess he's my cousin. I don't see the last name, but I hope it's my cousin. Nice to see you. Ciao Ale. I'm gonna send you a big kiss, and if he's not my cousin, I'm just sending a big kiss to everyone anyway. So let's go back into our illustration. As I said, I'm gonna turn off the background off, so we already have it, but we can move on and focus on other areas. So now that we have our swatches, we can select these our lighter areas over here. And perhaps what I will do is to show you how to create a selection of our 5 favorite colors, because I really want to start to work with a restricted palette here. If you do, if you're a fan of graphic novels, or if you see illustration, you can actually see that the restricted color palette builds a continuity here. So how do we create a new group? Well, very easy. We click on a new group and we call it selected 5, which are going to be our color of choice. And I'm going to bring one of these lighter color, and then I'm going to bring one of the green here, simply by clicking and dragging from one folder to the other. We're going to have one of the darker green, and then one of the lighter blue, and the black. So, oops, let's see. Click the black here. So as you can see, we created already a selection, and I would strongly recommend to start working only with this color. So we started from picking the color up from capture, from the capture service from Photoshop, import it to the libraries, swatches, and then creating our folder and narrowing it down. Yes, it's my cousin. She's saying amore, which means love in Italy. Hi, kisses to Angelo as well. Thank you so much for joining me here. So I'm gonna go ahead, select my 2 shapes here, and make sure that I go and choose now the selected 5. Of course, we can always come back and change the colors. Let's go into our background and make sure that we use the color that we have selected here. And again, I'm already starting to build a little bit of constraint in terms of color. Now we have these little shapes for our wall. How do we unite them? Well, there are 2 ways of operate here. We can go into our properties panel and use our Pathfinder panel here, which you can also find under window and Pathfinder, in order to unite. That's usually something that is very useful. So just simply by clicking here, the very first one is unite. It links the 2 shapes together. Another way of operating is I'm going to click Command Z to undo, and click here on the shape builder tool, and I'm going to click and drag and move it along. So as you can see, we can move it along as much as we want in order to cover all the shape that we're gonna unite. So Chunk is saying with swatch doesn't happen. So Yes, of course, you can use the eyedropper chunk, but what I wanted to make sure is that I can only act on the fill or the stroke. If you do click on the eyedropper tool in order to grab the colors, it will grab both, pretty much the entire appearance. So every appearance that a shape has, it will actually apply it to the shape that you're using and that you have selected. But because I want to make sure that I do use the stroke exactly as it is, I just want to change the color. In this case, I will simply select my fill here into the little swatches and then go into the swatches panel to change the color. Let me click on V to select my shape and show you exactly what I mean. So as you can see, the stroke stays the same, and all I'm doing is changing the color of the fill. Now, once I'm done here with my foreground, I'm gonna start and build, well, perhaps I can start to do this shape so we can introduce more tool. Let me know if you ever worked with the curvature pen tool, because we're gonna work with it in a second. So again, pen tool and curvature pen tool. In the chat here, behance.net/live. If you are on YouTube, I can see so many people typing on YouTube. Come on behance.net/live so I can see your question. I'm gonna start to build a little bit more by using another tool, which is the pen tool to build lines. So I'm just gonna click on the pen tool, and again, we're making it easy. We wanted to relax while clicking around and creating these beautiful shapes here. If you want to make sure that your line is straight, like in this case for the base of my vase, I want to make sure that it's a straight base. I'm going to click on Shift. So all I'm doing is literally clicking and creating a new point. And you'll be like, yeah, that's a little bit of a minimalistic approach. Of course, but we are going to be using our curvature tool to now modify this curve. So once you have created your path by clicking and creating anchor point with your pen tool, I'm going to go ahead and click here on the little symbol that is below my my pen tool, which is the curvature pen tool, and you go and click into your path, and as you can see, create a little dots, which allows to create the bend. I can see Tim in the chat saying that, yeah, the curvature pen tool is amazing when you're scared to use the pen tool. I completely agree, Tim. I think that is a great way to approaching curves and to learn how to create curves in your design here. So here it is. Boom, we've done it literally in 3 steps. Carol said that she used the regular pen tool and curvature is weird. Yes, you know, I find it a little bit tricky. Usually when I do teach Illustrator and this kind of illustration, I can see people trying to use the pen tool on its own, which is something that also we can do here. Very useful. As you can see, create an ellipse straight away. But the way that I prefer using it is by using it on top of our normal pen tool. So just like I did before, draw a line with the pen tool. I'm just going to do it again here. Draw a shape with your pen tool, and then that you have to option either to click on option and start to move around with these little toggles here, into our anchor point. I'm just going to zoom in so you all can see that we can start to create curves here. But as Tim said, this can get a little bit out of control. If you're starting to work with Illustrator, the curvature pen tool comes very handy. So I'm just gonna go ahead, and as you can see, I just wanna make sure for those of you who are starting to use Illustrator now, when you perhaps select V and then go back into the pen tool, it gives you the option to continue to build the line by having this little slash that appears, trigger my Siri, we don't need you, Siri, and next to our pen tool here. So I'm gonna zoom in. If we do have a little asterisk, we're creating a new vector point. When we have a slash, we are continuing a curve, and if you have a plus, we are adding a point. So in this case, I'm just gonna go ahead and connect in order to create a shape and show briefly again. And of course, we have a little circle here when we are closing a path, just like so. And then instead of pulling around all the little handle and getting messy, if you're scared of it, again, we let a little plus and we build our lovely curves with our curvature tools. Here it is. So now that we learned these new tools, let's go ahead and keep going. because we're going to start to jump into our details pretty soon. I can see Daniela going, oh yes, exactly. The curvature tool is an awesome tool. I can't believe the time. My eye just went at the time. We just have 30 minutes. So much to do. Well, I guess we're going to leave the animation for tomorrow. So today we're going to focus in building the illustration. Now, Osman is asking, should I switch to Wacom if I only use Illustrator? I personally love Wacom. I have the large Wacom pen and board here. I decided not to use it today because I'm trying to teach the approach in Illustrator for everyone. And I know I'm actually going to grab some water because I'm doing a lot of talking and talking. So as I said, today I decided to work with your trackpad or simple mouse with a cord, because I want to make sure that this tutorial here is as friendly as possible. So if you, Osman, are at a level in which you work very often with Illustrator, Wacom tablet, absolutely. That's the one that I use. I don't know many other brand, but a graphic tablet will speed up your workflow and help you so much. But if you have, for the first time approaching Illustrator, take it easy. As you can see, I'm working with a trackpad and with a mouse, so absolutely possible to do so. I just want to make sure that this was as approachable for everyone. Now, once we're done here, I've seen a little point. Sometimes it happens that I create a little point. I always go and make sure that I click on Command Y to clean up my file, because sometimes you have all these little points here that come from nowhere when I use my pen tool, especially when I try to do examples. So all you have to do is to click on them. And when you see those at the center of a shape, is because that is telling that is the middle of the shape. So don't worry about those. Again, to access and switch between our preview and our outline, all we have to do is Command Y. Yes, Paula, you can do, Paula is asking, can I do the same in Photoshop? Yes, you can. We're probably gonna have a look. Actually, let's jump into Photoshop right now. Even if there is a tutorial that I've done already during our Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, which you can find on behance.net/challenge/Photoshop, or on my website, iancladi.com/video. You have all the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, and I believe it was one of challenge number 2. I think we created a mailer, so if you go there, we have played with shapes. I think here, if you go ahead, you can look a little bit more in depth, but as I promised, I'm going to jump into it real quick. If you're going to go ahead, you find the curvature pen tool here under our pen tool, and I'm just going to be very quickly, because I'm just here to show it to you briefly, to reply to Paula's question. Here it is. Works exactly the same. I love the way that Adobe is building Illustrator and Photoshop with so many convergency, because I do use them very often together. So we want to make sure that when we learn to do something, we learn it in both. Okay, now we have done with our foreground, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn these off. So we have our foreground, we have our background, as you can see, starting to move on, and I'm gonna move into my midground to build those little perspective here. Now there is a way that you can do, which is simply click and drag to create a new rectangle, just like so, and then clicking on A to have our direct selection tool. I'm gonna click and drag to select only on the 2 point that I'm gonna be moving. And simply by moving it around, make sure, as you can see, that only the top left and the bottom left are selected. You can do so by holding Shift. Just gonna move it around just like so to mimic my perspective. Again, I'm not working with any grid because I want to make sure that this stays as a very friendly, beginner, chilling session. So again, you're more than welcome to use your grids, but I think that we can achieve a nice and clean design here simply by, especially because, you know, we don't have too much in terms of perspective. And again, also remember the photo might have a word angle, so the perspective could be twisted there. Malik, I always dress to impress, wearing a black shirt. So I'm glad that is your taste. Carol is asking, what is the bold serif font I use? Where? I have not played with any font yet. So let me know which font you want to know about. I'm a big fan of Gotham. My friend James, he runs a creative studio here, James Seddon, here in Manchester, know how obsessed I am with Gotham. So I'm usually a fan of sans serif Gotham here. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep drawing to make sure that I have all my little line here. And again, to move your anchor point, make sure that you click on A, because if you click on V, you move the entire shape, while by clicking on A, we have our white little arrow here, which is our direct selection tool that allow us to click and move point by point. And we're actually gonna use it in a second because we're gonna start to draw some clouds. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make sure that I build this shape here. Again, make sure that you click on the little corner, on the little anchor, to make sure that you create the correct one here. And again, as you can see, I use the photo just to have an initial idea, but then we're going to move out from it and we're going to completely change our work. So Alexandra is asking, what is the shortcut again for switching views? So it's Command Y for outline, Command Y for preview. Here it is. So now if we go back and start to build our foreground and our background, we have a little idea of how to match our planes. And the reason why we do have different layers is because also we can go ahead and block the background and the foreground, and we can just now, with our little plane selected, we can make sure that you move them so they are sitting right on top of our foreground. Here they are, and I guess we're done. We just need to click on this little fella here and perhaps hold shift and the other one to move it a little bit out. And as you can see, now we have the background that looks a little bit off, so we're gonna click and lock the midground, and I'm gonna be doing this a lot, so but that's the beauty of it. So you can click, literally lock you can lock the layer and unlock and click the one that you're using. So pretty easy. That helps you to move on. And as you can see, it doesn't have to be perfect. It usually looks pretty messy to start with. And now perhaps we have this line that is a little bit tilted. If you do want to have a check and make sure that your lines are straight, Command R. For your rulers, bring your rulers down. Use one of the point to make sure that hits it. Perhaps really zoom in here to move it. Now it is locked. The reason why it's locked is because probably I have all my guides locked. In order to unlock it, go under View, Rulers, and let's see, Perspective Grids, Lock Grid. Oops, not locked. So let's see why it's not moving here. Let me select it and oops. Oh, there it is. I guess it just kind of froze. So I'm gonna go ahead and move it around to make sure that it fits our angle. And then all we have to do is click on A and click on our shape, making sure that we unlock the midground. And we bring this other little fella here, so we know that we have a little straight line to make sure that we get rid of this little line because we don't need it now, which is our ruler. Press on Command and semicolon and it will disappear. I mean, it's still there, we're just hiding it. Click lock and drop it. Yes, that sounded very wrong the way I saw it, but I don't know how to pronounce your name from Uzbekistan, but thank you so much. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Hi Alexandra, and I'm glad you're finding it. Use it. What I was showing before, Carol need to be more specific. If you want, Carol, you can then send me perhaps a screenshot of the preview. I'm just literally cleaning up now, making sure that all my little lines sit nicely. We miss a little piece here for our background. Now you have two ways of doing this. You can build with another rectangle, or what I do usually is to select the shape that I want to use on top, press Command C to create a copy, Command F to paste it on top. And all I'm gonna do is to make sure that we click on A, our direct selection tool. Oops. and we move our shape up. So as you can see, the shape is already there, and all I have to do is press Command, Shift, and the left curly bracket to bring it underneath. So we literally create a copy and bring it underneath. Super easy. We had the shape and we had the one on top, which already created the line for us. Here it is. So we're already starting. Now I'm going to introduce another amazing tool. So as a magic, I'm going to go ahead and hide my midground. I'm going to hide my background, and the foreground was already hidden, so all we need is the midground, and I'm going to start to work on my plants. Isn't that amazing that you're basically allowing you to move around your artboard and keep it clean and nice? So what I'm going to do now is start to see how to approach the plant. And we know that this plant almost looks like there are a lot of different lines, but the lines has got a different thickness. It's very pointy on the top, and on the bottom we can zoom in to see that it gets very thin, but is a little bit large. So the reason why it's important to explore all the different techniques in Illustrator, and I'm here to show you my workflow, is because every different Illustrator has different tools. In this case, I'm gonna go ahead and use a tool that I cannot see here. It is, it's called the width tool. If you do not see it by any chance, I'm gonna zoom in. It's called the width tool. You can bring it up by clicking Shift W, or if you do have a little smaller version of this toolbar here, all you have to do is click on Edit Toolbar and this little drop down menu here, and click on Advanced to make sure that you do have our advanced tools. So we have many more tools here. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and click on my width tool. Before doing so though, let me show you how to approach my width tool. So I'm gonna go ahead and click first on my pen tool or segment tool, completely up to you. We are after creating a line, and I'm gonna go into our work in progress and click, making sure that it's visible, otherwise we cannot work on it. So in order to trigger the visibility, all you have to do is click here on the side. So the very first block allows you to make object visible or hide it, and the second one to lock it. And all I'm going to do is to click and drag down. So this is pretty much the size of our little leaf of the plant. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Escape to make sure that we break the line, otherwise the pen tool wants to keep drawing. And I'm gonna go ahead and click into my width tool to have a little bit of play with this line. So as we said, the leaf is thin, thick and thin, and I'm gonna click in the beginning, in the middle, in order to create a point and drag outwards to start to give it this little width. Here it is. That's our beautiful line that has now become a little leaf. And you can also create other point, perhaps, you know, to shrink. You can create as many points as you want. You can make it larger, you can make it a little bit skinnier. I'm gonna press Command Z because we were happy just with our first one, even if I'm quite liking the one with a little bit of more, you know, thin top. But once I create my first one, Macy, nice to see you. Macy is a lovely illustrator based here in Manchester. Make sure to go ahead and look at your work. I believe I met you, please remind me, but I think we were doing a ladies one and decide session here in Manchester, and we did a portfolio review, and her portfolio blew my mind. Macy is a very talented illustrator, so thank you so much for joining me here, Macy. So while I'm chatting here, what I've done is clicking into our little leaf that we created. Again, up to you. You can make it as fat as skinny as you want. Make it all weird. I make it fat as skinny at the same time. Up to you. I liked it like that today. Usually I just do the width, but absolutely up to you. It's your plant. It's your memory. It's your illustration. Oh, Tim is reminding us that we'll doing portfolio review today. Whoop, whoop. Very exciting. I guess during let me actually run the schedule, Tim. That's a really good time to run the schedule because we're about 20 minutes to go. So I'm just gonna stop it here. But stay tuned because I'm gonna have to still have to transform this little line into a shape. So we're gonna do that in a second. Before, I wanna make sure that we run over the schedule. So we are here starting the morning in the States, the afternoon in the Europe, and the evening on the other side of the world. So we are here with me, Vector Art, 7:30 until 9, where we're gonna have Jesus Ramirez doing Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, and after, that's the stream that Tim was talking about, Anne Shen, drawing and painting, more illustration, and portfolio reviews. So make sure to pimp your portfolio, so it can be reviewed. Sig, good morning. Oh, your intern has been out, but well, you're here. I'm so glad that you managed to join. And we have afterwards the Daily Creative Challenge. So again, 9:30 is going to be your stream with Anne Shan to review your portfolio. And then again, Alex Bustos, that's your second chance to do portfolio review at 12 with Alexis Bustos. And then another Daily Creative Challenge with Howard Pinsky in XD, and Doodle Therapy with Alice Lee at 2:30 p.m. What an amazing lineup. A lot of illustration, a lot of EXD, a lot of skills to be learned here. Can you tell that I was dancing before? Actually, I shared a little story on my Instagram. If you're curious, go ahead and have a look here while I come back drawing. And I almost knocked my entire studio. Like, seriously, I was wrecking the entire studio off. I walked through the green screen, brought the light, and then because my foot was on the green screen, I kind of slide around and put the light on the floor, and the screen will almost break. And by the way, don't tell him, but that's like a Jesus screen that left here in Manchester. So thankfully I managed to put everything back in place. But what do we do now with our line? How do we create stroke? How do we create a shape out of it? Well, first of all, let's make a copy just in case we want to modify it and create more simply by pressing on Option Alt on the Windows, click and drag in order to create a copy. Let's go back into our shape and go into Object, Path, Outline Stroke. Boom. Our yes, oh Jesus, oh Jesus. Someone Tim, shh, don't tell him. It's like literally probably watching because it's gonna be live in like 30 minutes. Let's keep it like a secret between us. So as you can see now, I created a shape and I can give it a feel, and I can go into my properties and also give it a stroke, which I'm gonna keep it black to stay consistent, and keep it over 2 point like everything else that we were doing. And now adding our round corner and a round joint for our corner here. So here it is. We're starting to have this little leaf coming up. Now, as you can see, we have our leaf, but also we have the lines, because when we have created the width tool, we actually created both, we kept the line, but also we kept the width. So when we went to outline, we actually had both the line and the little shape here. I'm gonna go back and do Command Z and show you how did I figure it out. Very simple. When you select, not only we have the line outside, but we can see the little stroke in the middle. That means that we have still the line there. So pretty easy. Move your shape around, click on it, and we can get rid of it by simply clicking on delete. There is a question by Georgia. She used the width tool for the leaf, but the ends are flat and not pointy. How do we resolve it? Okay, so how do you resolve it? Very easy. When you go ahead and create your first shape with your pen tool, so point, anchor point, escape, make sure to go in your stroke and use your round cup. Did you have that selected? I hope that helps. Usually that's the problem. So most likely you had already a squared cup, or what happened is that probably when you use your little width tool here, you went and created a very, very sharp corner at the end. So oh, look at how beautiful this curves is. But as you can see, you can create a very pointy one or a very sharp one if you squeeze in, just like that. So make sure that you use your width tool correctly. Go ahead and try again. Again, it's pretty easy. You start with a stroke, and then with the width tool, you can have a look there. Portfolio review submission. I think that, I'm not sure that's the right place to submit the portfolio, team. Hopefully you can help us with that. And Georgia, let me know if my tip helped. So make sure to make your corner round, and make sure to be careful with your width tool. So you really want to allow a little bit of space. So perhaps if you're right here with your width tool, all you have to do is to go at the very tip and give it a little bit of space so we have the round tip. Otherwise, when we transform it into a shape, we can always use the stroke and again make sure that our cap is round. Now we can use this shape as it is, or we can also create something fun with it. So perhaps we can create, you can see certain leaves that have a little bit of shadows, so they're a little bit of yellow and a little bit of darker color there. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on eraser tool and then on the knife tool here, and I'm gonna go ahead and slice this little shape here, and I'm gonna click on one of the two sides and make it green. Now we can chop the little leaf whatever you want. I just think that is very cool to introduce you to the knife tool. And I'm gonna make sure that I have my item here selected, and I'm gonna press Command Z, because actually before I slice it, I wanna create more leaves. How do I do that? Well, we have our beautiful rotation tool, which I'm gonna click, and then once I select it, I'm gonna go ahead and press Alt on the Windows, Option on Mac, and you see that there is, let me zoom in, we have these little 3 dots appearing, and I'm gonna place that wherever I want my rotation, so the origin of the rotation to start. In this case is going to be at the bottom, and I'm going to click on preview to see what's happening into my artboard. And I want to make sure that I rotate my little leaves. Perhaps I have to select it first, so I'm going to go ahead and select the leaf, go back into rotation, option, and click on the very bottom. Here it is. Make sure to select it, otherwise you're not really rotating anything. And here it is, now it's moving. So I just want to move it a little bit here. If you go between the preview and you toggle the preview, you see how much is moving. And then all I have to do is to click copy to create another leaf. And then how do we create more? Very simple. Command D is going to create more and more leaves. How easy is that? Isn't that absolutely amazing? Now all I have to do is to select them all and simply rotate by going to the side of our bounding box. You see that there is this little arrow with 2 different points going left and right, which tells us that that's how we rotate. So we can rotate our lovely plant here. And now that we have created more, we can perhaps move it around here. Here it is, to make it a little bit bigger and change and transform it as we please. And now that we have more than one, we can go ahead and go back to our knife tool and start chopping them around as we want in order to separate the color. Now, in order to have our knife tool working, I always get confused between the eyedropper tool and the knife tool. Aren't they similar? Please tell me that is not only me. Look, the eyedropper tool and the knife tool. Perhaps it's me not having a very great sight. But what I was saying is that you need to make sure that you do select whatever is the shape that you want to use with the knife tool, because Illustrator comes to help and I select the eyedropper again, allow us to create and use the knife tool without compromising the other shapes. So all you have to do now is select the side of the shape that you want to change color of. So perhaps we can do all these little points in green. Maybe we can just keep actually mix them around just like so. And you can go ahead and create more. Now I can see the time and we literally have 10 minutes left. I can't believe it. Michelle, nice to see you. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me. We only have 10 minutes left. That's absolutely ridiculous. But I want to show you how to create different leaves here and perhaps the boat. But we still have tomorrow. Again, we still have done quite a lot so far. So we have our background. See how we start to build together. We already have the color coming here. And actually I've been a little naughty because I was using different colors. So how do I select all these little shapes? Well, there is an amazing tool in yes, correct, Carrie, that in Photoshop the eyedropper tool is up there. So I keep getting confused, but at least we know, and we must know the difference. So I was saying, so what happened? I used the wrong color here. I say that I was gonna keep my constraint and use only our selected 5, but I used this yellow, which I really didn't want to use. And how do I select all the shape that are yellow? Well, I have 2 ways of doing so. One is to go into my properties here, and sorry, to go into my toolbar here and go into our magic wand tool by clicking there and clicking on the item that we select. We're actually going to select all the items that have the same color and the same appearance here. So what I'm going to do now is to change that into the dark green, and I'm going to go ahead and click on the lighter green to change the color as well, but there are just two, so you can actually also manually select it. So you can select it manually, or with the magic wand tool you can make a selection by appearance. Michelle, you're very welcome. It's so nice to have you here. So Georgia said that she used the second option and it worked. Woo woo. Perfect. I'm glad that that worked. Okay, so let's see what else we can do today. We can add some more clouds. So I'm going to go ahead into our background and create clouds. If you did follow my stream before, you yes, Sig, you're back. Your connection is going. I know it's internet, it's our life lately, but keeps us together here. It's nice to have you here, but I can read your messages and I can see you on. So in order to create the cloud, I'm going to go back and use my rectangle tool and click and drag to create a first rectangle. Then click again and hold Option to create a duplicate here. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't really match. We're going to show you in a second why. And I'm going to press Command D to create more. And then I'm going to start selecting those, and by pressing Option, we can move both of our sides out or in as we please. Oops, looks like we were moving that around, perhaps just like so. I'm going to create another little one here, and all I'm doing is simply holding Alt in order to create copy and dragging that around. So this is going to be my cloud. Looks a little bit weird now, I know. I'm going to click, drag, and select just to make it a little bit smaller here. All I have to do is squeeze them in, so we have a little bit of this smaller rectangle. And I'm going to go into my properties and to my pathfinder to unite all of those. So what happened here is that we created this weird shape, but we really want those round corners to come along. Lena, we have tomorrow. Lena said that she wished that those streams were longer. I know, me too. I'm having a blast with you here. So how do we make another way of making our corners is to use our direct selection tool. So I'm going to jump straight away into it by clicking on the letter A into our keyboard, and we have this beautiful red hotspot around our corner. And guess what happened? What we have to do is to click on one of them and drag in order to transform our corner into, so our sharp edges into round corner. Isn't that fantastic? And then all we're going to do is to bring it here, and here it is. We have our cloud. So we have our first plant. All I'm going to do here is to click on the rectangle tool to add a little bit of a trunk of the plant, and look what happened. I'm working in the midground or in the background. That's not very cool. So I'm going to press Command C and Command X to copy and cut my shape, and make sure that I go into my foreground layer, or actually my plants looks like there is in my work in progress one. Here it is. I place it correctly. I'm going to press on I to trigger my eyedropper tool and copy the same format of my plant. Now if I want, I can bring that a little bit backward here, so we have it there. And something else that I'm going to do is to lock all my other layer, so I can only access the plant. In fact, look, if I click and drag, nothing else get bothered. I'm just working with the plant. And I'm going to go ahead and press Command C and Command F to create a copy of the plant and paste it in place. And I'm just going to create a little bit more here of volume. Just going to give a little bit more volume on this little fan. Of course, I'm only using one single leaf just because of time constraint, because I can see the time is running out, but I strongly suggest you to start to play around, to change shapes, and to create different width. As you can see, I'm going to jump real quick into the final one. When I was working before, they're all different. They're all absolutely different. Some of them I changed colors, some of them I completely chopped them. And we have just a few minutes, so I'm going to show you how to create a different shaped leaf. Robert, I'm glad that you like the cloud, and tomorrow we're gonna jump into all these lovely details. Let me know real quick. We got 4 minutes. Do you want to do the boat or you want to do the leaves? Let me know. We can do more leaves or the boat. You better type fast, because I don't see the chat straight away. So Boat. Should we do the boat? Should we do the boat or should we do the leaf? Let me know. Should have asked that a moment before having just like 3 minutes. I'm just gonna do whatever is the first one there. In the meantime, just for those of you, tongue, boat, team, boat first. Let's go, boat. So another way, we didn't really have a cool boat into my background here. It looks a little bit weird. I want to make sure that I have a boat that comes around. Very nice and easy. I can go into my stock.adobe.com and search perhaps sailing boat. Here it is. And all I have to do is to pick a boat that I like. This one looks pretty cool. And I can save it to my library. And as you can see, it's saved into the wrong library. So I can go ahead and search for my little vector here, vector art. And once we jump into Illustrator and we go into our libraries, here it is. We have our little sailing yacht here. Perfect. So the reason why I've done that is because it's always nice to have some references. Click on my rectangle tool, create on my first rectangle, A for my direct selection tool, and we have our boat. Now what happens here? If we click like we did for the cloud, all the corners are going to become rounded. Well, in this case, I just want my bottom corner to get rounded. So I'm going to click on the one and then click on the other by holding shift and make only the bottom one. So Carlos, what time do I start? Depend where you're from. I start 7:30 a.m. PST, 3:30 p.m. UK time, and I believe Easter time is 10:30. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So as you can see, super easy. I created the bottom rectangle, made the corner exactly like I've done before. Hi Eric Sue, nice to see you here. I'm just working against time here. And another way to create a rounded corner ellipse is by using straight away our rounded corner ellipse here. And then I'm gonna bring it back by pressing Command Shift curly bracket, and here it is. We're almost done with our boat. We have 2 minutes, so this is like a 2 minutes boat. Sean, nice to see you here. To create our little sail, all we have to do is to go into our Start tool, and then if you click on the down pointing arrow, will transform your polygon, your star, into a triangle or polygon. And then with the direct selection tool, we can perhaps move these points, whatever we like. In this case, we do have 2 points because we started with a star. So perhaps we want to move it around for the top, just like that. But that looks like too much like a little kid drawing. I mean, we can keep it like that, but we can make it a little bit more pretty, perhaps by using another shape. It's always nice to experiment. We can go ahead from a rectangle tool. That probably makes a little bit more sense. And with our pen tool, we can go ahead and delete one of the side that looks a little bit more like an adult boat. Nothing wrong with the other one, but I just want a shape to resemble a little bit more what we have there. And to create a copy, press on Control, click, transform, reflect, and copy. So we're gonna have exactly the same copy of the previous one, but on the other side, and we can just drag to transform it and make a little bit of a larger boat here. Now is pretty much time to go. Hi Chad, nice to see you. So Yusanari, thank you so much for joining us on Behance. We have started our illustration tomorrow. We're gonna keep going. I probably have like literally 1 second to jump into the schedule. We have Sus Ramirez coming with a Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, drawing and painting with Anne Shen, portfolio review there as well, and then Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with Andrew, Adobe XD workflow and pro tips, Alexis Bustos with more portfolio reviews, and then Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge with our Pinsky, and Doodle Therapy with Iris Lee. And I'll catch you tomorrow for more vector art. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolutely blast, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye everyone. I'm gonna be in the chat. Bye.